All right, we've got some news here, guys, apparently. This was posted 10 hours ago on Smash JT. I watch this guy's channel, Smash JT. Ubisoft now pressuring Steam to remove player count tracking after Wait, what? Ubisoft is now pressuring Steam to remove player count tracking after historic Star Wars flop. Even less transparency from the video game industry. I'm shocked to tell you I'm shocked. Okay, wait, what? Well, it's a rumor. This is a rumor, though. A wild new rumor leak from an insider to the Phantom Pulse exposes Ubisoft's dissatisfaction with Valve and Steam for displaying concurrent player counts on its platform. Currently, this transparency is readily available to all of Steam's tracking tools for third-party websites like SteamDB. This is so good to have, though. Not just for like players to like kind of have an understanding. Like, for instance, if you're gonna play a multiplayer game, it's really good to have this info, because you're like, what's the queues gonna be like? Like, how would you know that if you didn't have like this info? Like, all of this stuff is great for the consumer, and not only for the consumer, really, it's great for like kind of aspiring game developers, because they can use this data in order to understand like what games are popular. The problem with it publicly embarrasses the performance for many of Ubisoft's titles like Star Wars Outlaws to gamers, journalists, investors, everyone, much to the company's dismay. Can't have that now, can we? Wait, didn't all of those games, can't they just use the excuse that the game is like, listen, most of our players are on PlayStation? Can't they just say that? They could just use that as an excuse. Oh, well, yeah, but you know, PlayStation numbers and Xbox. They could just do that, right? Yeah, like nobody plays our games on Steam anyway. According to the insider, Ubisoft is now actively seeking to pressure Steam to discontinue its player count tracking. Again, this is the problem with this, guys, is this is a rumor leak. It's kind of hard to tell if this is true. This is all like allegations, right?
Ubisoft doesn't like people to see how bad their game is performing.
Yeah, but the thing is this fits the narrative, right? This fits the narrative of like everyone wanting to hate on Ubisoft. Does that make sense? So like a lot of people want to hate on Ubisoft, regardless of like what you like, you know, they want to hate on it. It's really fun to hate on Ubisoft. So like, and again, it even says right here, a wild new rumored leak. So this is allegations. We don't know if this is true. This is just a person. We don't know where this came from. So like, of course, like, you know, we would want to be like, yeah, take that, Ubisoft, get fucked, right? Like, people want to say that, but we don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, Ubisoft and other companies want to pressure Steam to stop the tracker from giving out the info they want to keep to themselves. The insider explained that the concern stems from Ubisoft's desire to control how its games performance, like a control is like bolded here. Its games performance metrics are presented. So this is like, this article is obviously pretty biased, I think. They want to be able to present findings to investors so they can make it sound good. I mean, of course they would. Of course this is true, right? There's no way this isn't true. The insider alleged that their efforts were tied to the underwhelming, to be kind, sales figures, with Star Wars Outlaw reportedly failing to reach 2 million copies sold, a massive shortfall given Ubisoft's own admission that AAA games require significant sales to recoup costs. Yeah, because they're expensive. Because like the production cost of like these big dick games is like so much more than it used to be. We're reaching like beyond movies levels of expensive to like create like these huge blockbuster titles. Well, what's crazy to me is I think about it and it's like they spent all of this money on like these big blockbuster titles and it's just completely fucked by like some person in well, no, that's actually, you know what, that's not completely fair. That's not completely fair. I was gonna say that it's completely fucked by like some person who's just like DEI seeding, but it's actually, that's not fair, because there are multiple issues with the games, right? Like they're really buggy. A lot of people have said that the gameplay isn't fun. It's a multi-front issue, not just people saying DEI. I think if the game is still good, like if the game is like still like very well-made game, well-designed, like plays and runs like smooth as silk, I don't think people would really care, honestly. I think the DEI thing would have like a small impact, but people would still play the game. In the end, people want to play like an entertaining game. People would be able to overlook like small shortcomings in order to like, you know, just like with everything, right? A game comes out, it's pretty fun. I mean, like, we just use like Hunt Showdown for an example here. Hunt Showdown is very fun and it does have some shortcomings, which we talk about all the time. Like, oh, you know, this game has like these issues, like, but you know what? It's pretty fun. So like, you know, I really like the game still. So like, people will still play it. There might be some people that are like one issue players that are like, you know, if you're like Grums, right? If you're like Grums, like, any DI, well, pronouns in the game, any DI, not playing it at all, right? But that's not most people. That's like a very small percentage of people. A bigger percentage of people are people that are like, yeah, I don't like the DEI stuff, but I'd play the game if it wasn't dog water. There's people that are like that. They'll still play the game, but the game is dog water. So it's like, well, why the fuck, why am I subjecting myself to like this bullshit when like I don't even, the game's not even fun anyway. During a recent interview at XDS24, Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed executive producer Mark Alexis Cote revealed that the break-even point for a AAA title, the break-even point for a AAA title sold between 8 to 12 million. Didn't hit 2. Ow. The reason I'm quoting the 10 million copies kind of mark, from what I've seen and how I've seen costs of competitors, everything leaks in our industry. So you have privileged information on where the competition is going. Yeah. Dude, do you guys think these guys have spies in other companies? Maybe. But mostly I estimate that 10 million copies, give or take 2 million, is mostly what you need to break even. So they're down like a fuck ton of money. But you only have 10 games that breach that every year. When you add this context to the situation, it paints quite the dire picture of Star Wars Outlaws. If Ubisoft's sales figures guesstimate requirements are accurate, the game's inability to cross even the 2 million mark exposes a significant financial loss for the company, making Steam's visibility into the concurrent player accounts as an uncomfortable reminder of this struggle. I mean, dude, honestly, like, this is like really good information for people to have. I think people should be able to have it, especially if Steam is willing to give it to us. It's like really annoying that like a game company would try to like pull weight over this. If this is true, again, we don't know if this is true. This could be just bullshit, right? Taking that into account, it makes sense they wouldn't want to be so public embarrassed. I don't know. Maybe the best way to fix this shortfall is to remove DI and make better games. Crazy, I know, just a thought. Yeah, it has to be both. Again, I don't... guys, listen, I'm not a fan of DEI. That's clear, right? Like, you guys know that. I'm not a huge fan of like this tokenization, shoving this shit down your throat of like everybody has to be like strong women character, and like let's make all the women characters like less attractive so that like people feel less bad. Let's just add like random, you know, black and brown people into the game. You know, we mark off those check boxes. Let's like add a trans character and like a couple gays in there. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I think it doesn't really like make the product better. All I care about is this part, really. Make better games. This is the part I care about. This part is annoying, but honestly, I can kind of deal with it if it's not like so bad. But if you have both at the same time, like, holy fuck, I don't even want to touch it. Mikan Pachi says DEI was never about diversity. It's about power and control. Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Because they cram it down your throat. It's like you will like this and you will enjoy it. That's kind of like the feel I get from it. Let's make our advert for the game a green trans girl. Yeah, it's annoying. We need to like separate this because certain people that are just, I don't know, fucking room temperature IQ, like can't separate this concept. You can have characters, you can have a black character, you can have a brown character, you can have a strong woman character, you can have a trans character, you can have a gay character. You can have those in games without it being DEI. And the thing is, there's people on both sides. Like, there's people that are like, wow, that character is gay. Like, this game's gonna be shit. And then there's like people that are like, it has to have that, right? There's like these two concepts butting heads. It's not mutually exclusive. You can have a game that is good, that has a character like that, that is interesting, and it's interesting and like nuanced, right? Like, you can do that. And again, like, it's been like that since the dawn of time. Think about, you know, old anime. There were gay characters all the time in old anime. And you have other characters that kind of like touch on that subject. You have stuff like, and I know the character isn't trans, but you have characters like Astolfo that are like really like girly dudes. Like, nobody has a problem with that shit. Like, Astolfo is not made to like cram this down your throat. Astolfo is made because somebody wanted to make it like that. For instance, Marvel and DC Comics transitioned to distribution methods that obscure retailer sales when Netflix now defines views by using confusing metrics like total stream time. What? Netflix defines views by using confusing Metrics such as total stream time divided by runtime available. Or looking over the YouTube removing the dislike button without providing users with a legitimate explanation. I think they removed the dislike button because people like were hurt in the feels. They were hurt like right in the feels. You know, I think that's why they did that. Mikan Pachi says, I've discussed this with some friends the other day. Anime was always diverse. There were gay characters in the 80s. There were strong female leads. Two of the most loved characters in One Piece, Bon Clay and Ivankov, are drag queens. The representation was always there because they weren't controlling with it. They weren't controlling with it. They called it problematic. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Like Bon Clay is like such a cool character. Like I don't know many people that don't like Bon Clay. I know a lot of people that are like hardcore, like right-wing, like conservative people that like Bon Clay. But yeah, that's my favorite character in One Piece. Runa says, not to mention diversity, the problem is shit writing and pushing agendas. Yeah, because, well, the reason why, Runa, is because the pushing the agenda is more important to them than the writing. Does that make sense? The writing and the gameplay is like, it's a vector for delivering the message. So like the vector itself doesn't matter as much to them, right? Whereas like a lot of these other things I mentioned, like the shows that kind of have those characters, the vector is the important part. The story is the important part. The story, the characters, the world building, all of that, the gameplay, all of that is more important to them than a character being gay. So like that part is like the spice rather. Right. Here's a good analogy, guys. It's like adding a character that is
what if the agenda we push is slime girl supremacy?
Adding a character that has like these interesting things about them, right? Like, you know, they're gay or they're trans or they're, you know, they have some kind of like struggle, like some kind of diversity sort of struggle. It's like adding like spice to like food. It's like adding pepper to like your steak, where the steak is like the gameplay, right? But what happens if you have a plate and you fucking just put pepper on the fucking plate and you lick the plate? It tastes like shit. That's literally the problem. Shout out once again to Fandom Pulse for the scoop. This is just wild, but in this day and age, not surprising. Yeah, this is really bad. If this is actually true, again, we don't know if this is true. I just want to reiterate that
don't be
this
pepperphobic, Leaf.
Don't be pepperphobic. Again, like this is a rumored leak. I just want to be clear. We don't know if this is true or not, but if it is true, this is not good. And but to be honest, I don't see Valve actually buckling. I don't see Lord Gaben bending the knee to this, especially with this. I don't feel like they have a position to negotiate. Does that make sense? Like, what are they gonna do? Like with these kind of numbers, like they don't have a position to even stand on. Like, how are they gonna threaten Valve to like take this away? The problem is that cultural Marxism, everybody's an identifiable group that must be categorized as ambiguously oppressor and oppressed. All narratives have to revolve around that. No morals can be universal. No two characters can talk at each other at eye level. Yeah, I mean, that is another thing. It's like, I feel like things are more complicated than like oppressor and oppressed, especially when we link those to like for instance, like a lot of the time, and this is the part that really fucking annoys me, by the way. For instance, they'll have cases where they'll be like, you can see this in the school system, right? But you have this issue with, let's use the school thing, for example, because it's like the easiest example I can think of. You have the whole thing of like, well, we need to have more, let's just say like black people. We need to have more black people at the school. It's like, well, why? And then they'll be like, oh, it's because, you know, not enough money. So we have to have like grants for that. And we have to make it easier because, you know, they live in like a, you know, and the funny thing is, this shit is kind of racist if you think about it. Oh yeah, well, you know, they live in like a shitty place, so like we have to like go out of our way to like, you know, make it easier for them, right? And it's like it's actually like kind of racist if you think about it. And then they'll turn around and there'll be like an Asian kid from like, you know, the other side of the train tracks living in a trailer park, and they'll be like, yeah, you know, you're Asian though, so you know, you probably are good, right? You're probably fine. Right, and it's like they do this all the time, and it's again, it's categorizing like large swaths of people as oppressor or oppressed. Like there's plenty of white people who live in really terrible situations. In fact, I think a lot of them do. I think it's actually a significant number. Like, you know, living in like you know, trailer parks or living like kind of in poverty and like, you know, Appalachia and stuff like that, right? There's a lot of people that are living in those conditions, and to like basically say that like, well, this person by default, because their skin color is black, is like worse off than like a white person. It like doesn't make any fucking sense. And this is the problem I have with like generalizing like oppressor and oppressed into like these like categories of immutable characteristic. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't solve anything. Like, I'm interested in solving the problem, right? If the problem is that impoverished people have a harder time getting into college, well, we can talk about that. We can talk about, okay, like what's the benefits of like this program? Like, here's the thing that drives me insane. Is this even going to help anybody? You take a kid from that is in like these kind of bad situations. That doesn't mean you can just pluck them out of their environment and throw them into college and be like, yeah, you know, now you're gonna do really well because now you're in college. It's like you're not taking into account like their stats or any of that shit. Like, do we even know if this is a good idea? They're not looking for like real solutions that will help people. They're looking for whatever like makes them feel good, right? Because it feels so good to be like, wow, man, I really care. You know, I really care so much about you know, dark-skinned people. I care so much about them. I really like think that we should have more of them in like the school. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What problem are you trying to solve? And then I sit here and I say something like, oh, I don't know, I don't think that's a good solution to it. Oh, it's because you're racist. Like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any fucking sense. The thing is, it's not about them feeling good, because we all know some politicians are disgusted of some people that they claim to love. What they want is to look like good people. I think it's both. I think it's both, Julio. I think there definitely are people that just want to look like good people. And see, the thing is I end up, like, because I'm like kind of a realist, I'm like kind of like pragmatic about stuff, I end up looking really mean, you know? And people end up thinking I'm like a really mean person, because I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, because I don't think they can handle it. When I say like, I don't think, again, I'm not talking about a group of immutable characteristic group. I'm not talking about that. But like, if you're talking about like specifically like, oh, we should just let people in based on like immutable characteristic, I'm like, well, it depends on the person. Like, can that person handle it? And like, when I say something like that, it's like, it sounds so mean. Do we know it's gonna like be better for them? We don't know that. We don't know if it's actually gonna lead to like a better result, right? Because there's other solutions, right? Like, we get so tunnel visioned on the idea that there's only one solution for every person. Statistically, more people drop out when they're put into schools they aren't qualified for. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the point I'm bringing up, nether ending. That's what I mean. Do we know if this solves like the actual problem that we have? Like, let's identify a problem and let's try to fix it. The idea that I don't want to give blanket money to like people, like I don't think, I'm not like a fan of throwing money at a problem. Giving money to people that are like unaccountable and just saying like, oh, that's gonna fix it, like, I don't think that does fix it. People have different starting stats and we have our own preferred classes and feats. Yeah, exactly, Mr. Eckley, you know? And sometimes it sucks. Like, sometimes you can't, you know, sometimes you're in a position where like your stats aren't synergistic to what you want to do. You know, you might end up being a dwarf that wants to be a wizard. It's tough, but you know, you just gotta work really hard at it. That's all you can do. Or you can find other ways to use your strengths. There was like this one anime I saw that had like a dwarf guy that was a wizard. Was that the handyman? That was the handyman one, right? Benria? Wasn't it Benria? Was that the one, Julio? It was Benria, right? The handyman guy? Yeah, Benria Saito-san. So in like this anime called Benria Saito-san, there's a dwarf that like wanted to be a wizard. He used like dwarven stuff in order to like be a wizard despite being a dwarf. Does that make sense? He used his tanking ability to like make it so that he could cast spells that would counterattack people. It was really cool. It was like a really, I don't know, that kind of stuff is really cool. I love seeing that, like where people, they don't have the natural talent at something, but then like they take like what they're good at in order to be good at something that they're not good at. The anime is so underrated. I love it. I love that show. I'm more about finding solutions than I am about like putting people into boxes and just blanket giving stuff to people. I think it makes people feel really good about themselves. It makes them like look good to other people. But I don't think it solves anything. In fact, I think sometimes it actually does more harm than good.